This week's episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast is brought to you by SugarCRM. If your sales team is struggling to close deals, SugarCRM can introduce you to modern, insight-driven sales. Energize your CRM with Sugar. Hi, I'm David Manty, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me this week are Jeff Branke and Anna Wells. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we each have more than 20 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we take the 5 most popular stories on our website and discuss the implication they have on the industry going forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You could also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first, or you can subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can get a notification whenever we go live on Thursday. Jeff, how you doing this week?
Pretty solid, David. How about you?
Doing all right. Doing pretty good. You know, they just started rolling out the new wave of novelty flavored chips, and I'm all in on that. Like, I am the sucker that every sort of novelty marketing food gimmick was created for, and I'm fine with it.
Well, those ones out there now, we were talking about it, it tastes like a grilled cheese to me, without a doubt.
Yeah. You want to give me a chip that tastes like a hard shell taco from Taco Bell? All in. Take my money. Yeah. Anna, how are you doing today? Where do you stand on the gimmick flavored chip?
I also love a gimmick flavored chip. Is there a season for it?
It's got, I believe it starts now.
May.
It's gimmick chip season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I guess that would work out because I think it's National Salad Month.
People are starting to grill out again. And so this is when they gimmick you with chips.
Yeah. You need like a counterbalance to Salad Month.
I'm fine with that.
Before we get started with our first story this week, we have a word from our sponsor, SugarCRM. This week's episode is brought to you by SugarCRM. Tetley Harris is the largest private label tea packing company in North America. The company makes 28 million tea bags every day in California, Georgia, and New Jersey. For many years, the company's sales team relied solely on an outdated system, spreadsheets. But this new case study tells you how Tetley improved sales by switching to an updated sales tool, one that helped the team go from 100 active leads to more than 1,200. So download the new case study, how Tetley Harris increased its sales pipeline 1,100% right now. Download that right now. There's a link to it in the body copy and in the live chat. Our first story this week. Boeing is having a pretty good week. When it rains, it pours. But when the rain stops, the sun shines, and Boeing has recently found itself in a warm spot. Last week, regardless of how the deals came together, Boeing landed 2 major orders in the Middle East. While President Donald Trump was in town, Boeing confirmed a $96 billion order from Qatar, gifters of the new to us Air Force One, and another company in Saudi Arabia for up to 30 jets. 30 jets. Big difference there. According to the AP, the Qatar order is Boeing's biggest order for 787s and wide-body jets in company history. China also lifted its ban on Boeing deliveries as part of a working trade truce. Boeing has lost more than $35 billion since 2019. But look at that, Jeff. Boeing is turning that frown upside down.
Well, that's great. And I don't want to be, the glasses half empty guy, but sales, when you're one of 2 main players in the game, sales aren't the problem. Mm-hmm. And it's great to close. It's the biggest deal ever, 30 planes, wonderful, especially according to last reports. They had about 80 planes pretty much sitting on the tarmac, not doing anything. Mm-hmm. So in terms of cash flow and getting rid of some of that excess inventory and everything that's tied up into it, plus some of those planes have aged 2, 3, 4 years sitting on the tarmac. So there's other costs associated with them before they can be delivered. So this is positive. Don't want to take away from that in any way, shape, or form. But
Big butt coming.
this is not the problem. Again, sales has never been the issue. It's been manufacturing and quality controls. So when we look back a little bit of brief history here with Boeing, in 2018, they were delivering almost 70 planes a month. Wow. Top that they've been doing in the last couple of years, a little over 50. Okay. And that's because it's output, it's manufacturing, it's getting through those types of issues. It's dealing with supplier issues. It's dealing with doors flying off mid-flight.
Yeah, rework.
So it's great to celebrate this and say you had a good week, but I just hope this isn't covering up a lot of the other still existing problems that Boeing has, like suppliers, like getting things produced. Are they going to start that fourth line that they've been talking about to try to ramp up production? Those are the bigger issues Boeing has. So, yeah, let's celebrate the good week, but let's not forget all the work that still needs to be done here.
I think that's why it is such a glaring good week, because it was like Boeing in the headline. What now? Oh, it's positive.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So, and you know what was also crazy was that this made the top 5, right? Like, there was good news for a manufacturer.
Oh, true.
And everyone read it. Anna, when you look at this story, it is good news for Boeing, but it is kind of also interesting, how some of these deals maybe came together, when they were announced. And I mean, also to Jeff's point, like, getting the orders on the books has never really been the problem for Boeing. Getting them out the door and then keeping them out the door really has.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was really hard to take this at face value. Obviously we have this situation going on with Qatar, however you say, with the Air Force One that's generated a lot of controversy. To me, I was like, is this a way for the president to kind of divert attention away from that situation? Are these big orders from other countries a way for these countries to kind of curry favor with this administration? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it kind of makes them look like a deal maker. They require some down payments typically, but a lot of the cash is sort of staggered out. So really pretty easy to cancel these orders later. If you look at, Bloomberg ran a report about this story and they put it so well in their teaser. The Qatar Airways announcement makes for nice fanfare, but it would take Boeing 9 years to chew through its backlog at current output. I mean, there you have it, and to Jeff's point, the problem again is it's not the orders, it's fulfilling them. That's the issue. So I think there's a long runway here for this deal to potentially stall out, to get revised, canceled, limited. Who knows? So it's just, it's hard to take it as like a done deal that's tied up in a bow. It really is not.
I think that it is a great time right now to continue a running spreadsheet of all the deals that are being announced and maybe following every thread, because this is another one where it's just like, 96 billion. Yeah. And then, do we ever hear about it again? Right.
Exactly. And then the other thing that we are hearing about a lot is this jet that we're being gifted from this same country, incidentally.
Can you believe it?
And there's also been some developments on the Air Force One front from Boeing earlier this month. They actually announced that they were trimming that timeline a little bit. Initially, they had said closer to 2030 on those deliveries. Now they're saying that they think they can tighten that timeline up and deliver those in 2027.
Because they said as far back as 2035.
Yeah, so now the Air Force is saying, look, we can remove some of the regulatory requirements on security clearance for the folks that are working on this plane. That's been one of the biggest hangups. And we'll try to get these done faster. And they think that they can actually deploy this for the second half of Trump's final term. The other thing I read, too, was that Boeing has admitted that when in 2020, when they started working on these Air Force One planes, they took 2 planes that they had earmarked for a customer. That customer went out of business, and they started refurbishing these planes to be used for Air Force One. And they realized too far in, I think, that this was actually taking longer than starting from scratch. So will these planes beat this Qatar jet into service? I think that's actually possible at this point, because that plane also needs to be refurbished.
Yep.
So it's just a very confusing situation. I think when you look at the details, it makes less and less sense as we go. And so is this a diversion to get people thinking and talking about something else? Maybe. Is it keep Boeing from making a big to-do about this? Maybe, you know? So there's so many things going on that I just think it's a tough situation to read.
I think all of those can be true at once. And I think that when we first covered the story about retrofitting a new Air Force One, that was about a week before the details broke that, it was going to be a $400 million gift. And I think that should have some tremendous scrutiny. Especially when it's being it's being compared to like, no. When someone gives you a gimme on the golf course, you just take it. You pick the ball up, you take the gimme, and it's the same thing as that. If someone gives you a plane, you take the plane. And I don't know. I think that maybe we need to look into a $400 million gift to the U.S. government with a touch more scrutiny and caution. According to Business Insider, the U.S. Air Force has been tasked with modifying this new jet that was gifted to President Donald Trump. Some people say that it could cost up to $1 billion to retrofit it as part of the Air Force One fleet. So it's still going to be costly. I mean, even if we did save $400 million, we're still talking about a cool $1 billion to get it in the air. And I mean, there are legitimate concerns about cutting corners because they said they wanted it in the air by fall. Like by fall, $1 billion. I mean, you can throw as much money at a problem as you want to. I'm just concerned that they're going to put this thing in the air by fall just as a win rather than it being, kind of in game shape, let's say, just like it doesn't matter. It's just got to get in the air or maybe just a photo op in front of it. And then, but I don't know. I think there are a lot of reasons we should proceed with caution. And I mean, when you talk about it being a gift, Jeff, when you still have $1 billion price tag, like that's still substantial.
Yeah. All the things. I don't know how to add on to that one. I mean, we talked about it last week too. I mean, just from a security perspective, and now they're talking about the constitutionality of it, accepting this type of gift. So there's lots of fun stuff to get through.
I can't remember who the author was, but in a previous administration, the author had sent a book to a previous president because it was about one of their initiatives, and like how to get a better understanding of the market. And it was returned because they cannot accept gifts or emoluments. I can't remember the word exactly. And so let me just keep butchering it until I figure it out. I'll just feel my way through. But I was just, emoluments. But I read that and I was like, different times, man. Different times. All right. Our next most popular story this week. Honda pulls back on EV strategy, will push hybrid sales. On Tuesday, Honda became the latest automaker to hit the brakes on lofty EV goals. According to the AP, Honda's U.S. EV sales are slowing. So the company is scaling back goals for EVs to be 30% of its global vehicle sales by 2030. The company was going to invest some $69 billion in EVs by the end of 2031. Now, Honda is slashing that by $21 billion. Honda CEO Toshihiro Mibe says it's, quote, a switch in the planned course, a detour, but the long-term road still leads to EVs. Tariffs weren't explicitly mentioned as a reason, but Honda did say, quote, the environment surrounding the automobile industry is changing day by day. Uncertainty in the business environment is increasing. Now, specifics on how the timeline will change haven't been given, but Honda's plant in Maryville, Ohio, will be retooled to make both EVs and hybrids. I mean, sure, they're slashing, but Jeff, it's still like a $48 billion investment in EVs.
Well, it's weird. There's just this strange narrative around electric vehicles right now where everybody's sort of, I don't know if it's because there was this political and social pressure put on the automakers in some respects to produce EVs and forecast for EVs and put it out there. And the buying public basically said, we're not on board to that extent yet. It's because to read a lot of the stuff that's out there, you would think EV sales are just in the toilet and we're losing money on this. That isn't the case. Mm-hmm. They're still very steady. They're not to the degree that people had forecast, which, big surprise here, automotive misforecast something. Yeah. That never happens except all the time. So it happened here, but it's getting more attention. And as a result, automakers are doing what they always do. They pivot. When people start buying SUVs, guess what? they start cutting out sedans and making more SUVs and trucks.
Yeah.
It's a similar dynamic here. But yet there's this, I don't know, this sort of cloud over these stories where it's a huge shift and a huge change, when the reality is it's just adjusting to consumer trends and desires, just like they always have. I believe, and I think Anna's going to get into this more, but EV sales are something up like 10% or something like that annually. Hybrids are about twice that. They are up more. So again, adjusting to what the consumer and the market is telling you to do. It makes a lot of sense. Now, one area, and I'm sure people want to grab onto this too, is EVs and the batteries especially are more difficult right now. And there is a lot of uncertainty when you look at tariffs and a lot of the rare earths and getting a hold of it. So that plays a part too. You just wish that the automakers would be a little more transparent with some of these things, as opposed to, intentionally or not, casting doubt over electric vehicles as a viable product, because that feels like the narrative that's sort of being pushed on us right now. It's really not accurate.
Well, I think that's because you get quotes like uncertainty in the business environment is increasing. That's because people can't say, no one knows what's going on, and so we're not doing it.
And that's not new.
Yeah.
That's always been the case. I mean, we're going to talk about something a little bit later that was a huge swing and a miss in the automotive marketplace. And it happens all the time. It's not just that company, it's everybody. So this just doesn't feel that new to me. It feels like a normal adjustment.
I was actually going to ask if you get like a real I told you so with a lot of these articles or stories, just because, you know, when we were talking about this huge EV push, you were just like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like the demand is there. And, you know, it seemed like they were setting lofty goals. And you were just like, the demand's here, the goals are here. And I just don't see how we get there in the interim.
And that is what played out. I don't feel it's an I told you so. I feel like we were going to wait and see. We didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
There's nothing new to that. And I don't want to get I know Anna's got some stuff, so I'll circle back when she's done here a little bit.
Okay. Well, Anna, kind of how they're pivoting, it reminded me a lot of Toyota, right? Like Toyota said, you know what, we're going to do more hybrids than EVs, but that was just because that was their specialty, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think Honda's in a similar position?
I do. I mean, you know, there's a lot to kind of unpack here, but, you know, as Jeff mentioned, globally EV sales are up. They were up 30% in April, which is crazy. Analysts estimate that nearly 1 in 4 vehicles purchased in 2025 globally will be an EV. Mm-hmm. That's great, right? Yeah. But I agree that the automakers were flying blind a little bit when they made these projections. And I think part of that probably had to do with the fact that they had to justify the tremendous capital investment that it was going to require to actually build out their facilities and completely change up their portfolio. Not to mention there was regulatory issues and guidances along with, you know, fleet MPG and all that stuff that they had to meet. So what Honda said in their press release was essentially, we thought we were going to be at, I think they said like 30% of brand portfolio EV. Mm-hmm. By such and such year, the next couple of years, we're not going to be there. But they're like, we're going to be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and by 2030.
Yeah. So to your point, it's like, I think they just missed that a little bit. And it's just a reflection of kind of forecasting from a position where there was still just a lot to learn about the market. And I think you're seeing too, like, you can only catch people when they're in their buying cycle. It's automotive. Like, you know, you're going to get a lot of wait and see with people as the technology advances. You're going to get a large segment of the driving population that will never buy an EV until the range is super high or the charging speeds are super fast. And so, you know, this is sort of like this middle area for a lot of people that they're just like, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But I don't think automakers, like, I wouldn't fault them for making these projections. I think they had to figure something out at that time, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, like Jeff said, I mean, automotive forecasting has always been difficult, and we're talking about automotive forecasting in an entirely new category.
For sure, yeah. And if you look at Honda specifically, you know, they're kind of at a good place to pivot back to hybrids because, as Jeff said, hybrid sales in the U.S. are growing. They're doing very well. Honda's been making hybrids for decades, you know?
Yeah.
They have a strong pedigree here. They were making performance hybrids like, you know, back 25 years ago. And selling them. Yeah. They have like one EV on the market. Mm-hmm. And they just released it like, I don't know, 1 year ago.
What is the Honda EV? Does anyone know?
It's, I can't remember the name of it. It's like an SUV.
Okay.
Did they do that with the Pilot?
Yeah, but it's called something else.
Okay.
I don't remember the name of it. Anyway.
The Prologue?
Prologue.
The Prologue.
Prologue.
So, Jeff, you said you wanted
horrible name for a vehicle. Wow.
Well, I mean, I guess it's actually very intuitive. It's the Prologue. They're just like, we only got this one, and we're still figuring out what we're doing next.
Well, exactly, though. And $21 billion could go a lot further in a category that you already live in, I think. And they said some of that money is going to go into like assisted driving technology development, stuff like that. I mean, I think it's understandable. I don't think it necessarily has to be taken as this like, black mark on the EV industry as a whole.
I do think that the automakers, though, do feel a little bit justified because I do think they felt pressured to push EVs maybe faster than they wanted to.
I agree. Yeah.
So now that they can release these statements saying, hey, we made them and nobody wanted them, I guess we got to do something different now. I do think they feel justified in that respect.
But do you think that it's another situation like it was with with smaller sedans and things like that, where they were like, remember we talked about this a lot when they were cutting their portfolios, and it was like, well, the SUVs and the trucks have a much higher profit margin than these $25,000 Honda Civics or whatever they are,
Mm-hmm.
is now like, well, we don't profit as much on these. So
I think this even goes into the sales cycle. We just bought a new vehicle not too long ago, and if we wouldn't have brought up electric vehicles as an option, it would not have been part of the conversation naturally from the salesperson. So I think, and it's going to vary, right? It's going to be different in every place you go, but we did talk to 2 or 3 different salespeople, and I think there was even not a reluctance, but a lack of comfort in talking about electric vehicles as the one that they would push first and foremost.
Yeah.
So all of this is still developing and evolving. I'm not for or against electric vehicles. I'm for whatever works.
Works best for you and your
Yeah,
family.
I mean, whatever it is. And we were talking about some of those early forecasts. I did think they were pretty aggressive, and the market kind of played out. You could take this headline, just looking at this. Honda pulls back EV strategy will push hybrid sales. You could say the same thing. You could say pulls back sedan sales will push SUVs. I mean, it's so interchangeable right there. But we have the different context because, I don't know, it gets to be a hot button for some reason.
Well, it was the same when I was buying a car, right? Like if I didn't ask the EV question, it wouldn't have been brought up. But I also feel like this is another step towards like Nissan Honda Bishi Motors or whatever it's going to be called next. Maybe just Japan Motor or like the not Toyota Motor Group, whatever this like combination of Nissan, Honda, and maybe Mitsubishi all together is going to be. Because, I mean, in my opinion, when it comes to this like heavily automated EV era, I think there will be fewer players and even more of a homogenized product. And I do think that, this might be a step towards that. Like we saw a lot of the cutting Nissan recently. We're seeing a lot of big changes with Honda. We don't see a lot with Mitsubishi, but I mean, they're not very big. And I just think that I feel like we're getting closer to a time where 2 or 3 of those automakers will all be combined.
it's a big jump, but we'll keep an eye on it.
I don't know. I think Nissan Honda Bishi Motors is really a winner.
I think one of the stories we talk about in a little bit, we're going to see how that sort of culling of the field is shaping up.
Oh, yeah. All right. Our next most popular story. Company decides not to rebuild chlorine plant with a history of fires, explosions, and toxic clouds. BioLab, Inc. operated the chlorine plant in Conyers, Georgia, and it had some reoccurring problems. Big ones like explosions, chemical fires, and toxic clouds. They weren't the best neighbor. On September 29th, 2024, a fire broke out at the chemical plant that made products used in swimming pools and hot tubs. The blaze sent a toxic cloud over the neighborhood and shut the factory down indefinitely. Well, it sounds like the plant will be closed for good, as BioLab this week announced that it won't rebuild the manufacturing facility. In a way, it sounds like downsizing. Basically, as BioLab figured out alternative production after the catastrophe, they kind of figured out a new way of doing business. The company's distribution center in the area will remain and fill orders for products from other manufacturing facilities. Last month, the U.S. Chemical Safety and Hazard Investigation Board released an update on the investigation. They found that the company improperly stored hazardous chemicals and was cited for 6 violations and more than $60,000 in proposed penalties. Anna, is it possible that BioLab had just worn out its welcome in the Atlanta area?
I do think so, yeah. And if you look at this company overall, it feels like a little bit of a disaster. I did some reading up on them. And the Conyers plant situation, which is the Atlanta area one, is pretty unbelievable, right? But get this. They have another plant in Lake Charles, Louisiana, that's also endured a ton of drama. The company acquired that plant in 2013. It was destroyed in 2020 when a hurricane flooded the plant, which caused water-reactive chemicals to ignite and burn the plant down. Didn't know that was a thing.
Yep.
So the plant was rebuilt in neighboring Westlake, Louisiana, and opened in 2022. In 2023, a chlorine leak from a pipe in the facility resulted in a shelter-in-place order and the temporary shutdown of Interstate I-10. And then in July of 2024, the site's warehouse caught fire, resulting in a temporary shutdown of Interstate I-10. So back to Conyers, this is the third time that facility has caught on fire.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like,
kind of a bad track record.
It
there.
is, right?
Yeah.
And it's concerning to me to see both of these facilities sort of embroiled in these issues over a 10, 15-year period. And then, of course, the OSHA violations on top of that. There's lawsuits that have been filed by multiple lawsuits filed. One that was attempting to even reach class action status for the 90,000 people in the vicinity that were said to have been impacted by this situation. So I just feel like it kind of got out of control for BioLab. And it seems to me at this point that it wouldn't be surprising to me if they had lost the support of the community, because it's not like they can point to their past or their other plants and say like this was an aberration, because it's not, you know, it's happening and like in rapid succession. And so I don't, how many shelter in places can you have? How many elementary schools are put on lockdown and stuff before the community is just like, you know what? No, thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, they're still dealing with the fallout, right? I mean, the community residents are, I think, trying to sue or have sued the EPA just because of the lack of accountability, right? Like, they especially want to know why the EPA didn't perform more testing after the fire. I mean, we're talking about people that their eyes were on fire. They couldn't, their throats were on fire because they were breathing these chemicals. Metaphorically on fire.
Oh, my God.
According to News Nation, some also want the EPA held accountable because they think the agency failed them about the potential toxins in the air. So there's a lot of anger around this particular situation. And I also think one of the things about this story, Jeff, is to maybe expect a little bit more of this with our sort of move towards greater deregulation.
I mean, it's interesting timing, because that was the first thing I thought about. Everything that's going on right now with the current presidential administration cutting back government staffing, looking, and now that while none of the environmental regulations that they're looking to roll back or adjust or amend, whatever you want to say, are specific to this situation, it does make you wonder where it could possibly lead to. So there's got to be greater conversation there, especially if these folks are going after the EPA specifically, where they've seen job cuts for regulators and administrators and everything else. The other thing that's interesting here is when you have to feel, even though there's definitely a cultural issue here, without a doubt, when it comes to safety and environmental controls, there's got to be a cost element as well.
Yeah. Now,
I don't want to make any confusion about this. I am all about everybody having the teeth that they need to get after violators. I've preached about that more than once. So I'm not saying step away from any of those things. What I'm saying, when we look at a community like this, now they're not going to be devastated by this plant shutting down, but at one time this did employ almost 500 people. Now that's going to be shut down to about 100 because they're closing the manufacturing entity of it. Yeah. So that's significant.
Oh, yeah.
In these instances, and I'm not saying this is the prime example of a company to do this with, but you would like to see, if we're going to have fewer bodies at these regulatory agencies holding people accountable, maybe we can shift a little bit to help with the remediation elements in terms of giving folks more support to meet these guidelines.
Like self-reporting.
No, I'm saying instead of, yes, we still have to find them, we still have to hold them accountable, but as opposed to strictly saying, here's your fine, pay it, what about also providing support in terms of helping them get better safety protocols in place, making the investments they need to so that they can keep operating in a safe fashion? Yeah. Now, again, this is a serial violator, okay? Yeah. Maybe not the best situation, but if we are looking to preserve and make these types of facilities, because they're not going away, they're always going to be in somebody's backyard, doing more to support their efforts and say, look, there is a ton of different scrubbing technology out there. There's a ton of different fire-resistant chemical protective technology out there. Here's what you need. This is what we're going to help you get. What do we need to set up? What type of program, financing, whatever the case may be, to keep you operating so that you can not only keep employing people, we can not only keep these manufacturing jobs, but we can keep everybody else safe.
Yeah.
And what this could do potentially from a bigger picture perspective is we've had plenty of stories about people not wanting certain types of facilities in their backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can get past that a little bit
by
giving them the support they need to properly and safely and without any type of the odors or anything else that can creep out of these facilities, impacting the way they're presented or the way they're viewed within their communities.
I mean, that is a very optimistic potential situation. I mean, I love the idea because really when you think of like a public-private partnership, you think of like initially, make the roads bigger, fix the water situation, fix the utility situation, then we'll take it from there. Where you're talking about more of an ongoing, hey, if you have these factories in your area, the factories could kind of step up and be like, hey, listen, this is where we're at. This is what we need. And maybe try and see if, I guess it would have to happen on a hyper local level, just because I don't see, the federal government offering any sort of support for people in these types of situations.
It can be anybody, because if you're going to have fewer people, we already have an issue with inspectors going out to any of these facilities, whether it's from OSHA or EPA or the other one. Anyway, any of the regulatory bodies that are trying to get on site here. This is a way to get around that, encouraging manufacturers to be very open and saying, we can't do this right. We don't know how to do this. Help us out.
Yeah.
And we can, instead of funneling money into catching them, funnel money into helping them not need to get caught.
I totally agree. And I feel like it's got to be a mindset shift, because right now it seems like the way to support manufacturing collectively is to create jobs, make it easy for them to set up shop, or give economic incentives for
no taxes,
but it can't stop there. I mean, we can't just obsessively create job after job after job in manufacturing, and then we watch them go unfilled because people don't find manufacturing appealing, probably because they read stories like this.
Yeah. Do you think that's realistic? I
don't know if that's. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that that's necessarily like the point.
Yeah.
But to say that that's what is needed.
Yeah. No, it's. I guess I've never really thought of that situation. It would be incredible, But I
don't see why it's not doable. I mean, we have the ability to funnel money however we need to.
Yeah.
And in this instance, you're not only supporting that manufacturer, you're supporting all of those suppliers. What it gets down to is breaking down a lot of these bureaucratic roles that people don't want to lose. There's an ingrained system. It's hard to break paradigms, right? When you're used to doing things a certain way, where that responsibility falls on the company that's producing the given product to do it in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As opposed to implementing safeguards where there's more communal involvement.
Yeah.
Plus, a lot of companies are going to say, get out of my factory. I don't want you in here telling me what to do.
Yeah.
So it's breaking down a lot of walls. So in that respect, very difficult.
Yeah.
From in my opinion, from a mechanical perspective, no, it's just a refunneling of resources.
No, mechanical perspective, very doable. But when you're talking about you got to shift that mindset where it's not like self-reporting, a violation necessarily. It's like changing that to just asking for help,
Well, there is somewhat of a parallel though when we look at cybersecurity right now. Okay. The SEC mandates companies who are publicly traded to disclose anytime they're hacked.
Yeah.
Because there's costs associated with that. There's costs for paying the ransom, there's costs for remedying the network, whatever the case might be, they have to disclose all that. You could put similar guidelines in place here. If you have an environmental shortcoming, it has to be public knowledge.
Yeah.
And then you do qualify potentially for this type of support. So, yeah, I mean, it's a long road. I get it.
Yeah.
It just seems like a more common sense way to try to address these issues.
Get that common sense out of here, Jeff.
You're right. My bad.
We don't need
That's
that.
on me.
Nobody likes it.
It's on me, guys.
Our next most popular story. EV maker lost $44 million in Q1 after delivering just 2 vehicles. For about a year, maybe at least a year, Faraday Future has been flirting with bankruptcy, full-on courting it, if you will. A new report from Anna took a look at how Faraday, in the past year, has barely avoided bankruptcy. This is the same company that was evicted from its California headquarters. But then a lifeline, a cash infusion, 2 prototype mules, and plans to sell a sub $30,000 electric van. In March, the company received a third funding commitment, bringing its total haul in the prior 6 months to $100 million. In April, the company said it had signed pre-order agreements with JC Auto, which paid a non-refundable deposit of $100,000 to be applied to up to 1,000 vehicles. But then we heard about Faraday Future's Q1 results, which CarScoops characterized as, quote, dismal. The company posted an operating loss of $44 million and only delivered, as we said before, 2 vehicles. A lot of smoke and mirrors around this one, as after a little bit of digging, it turned out that the JC Auto pre-order is non-binding and may be for as few as 2 vehicles. Another pre-order from Skyhorse Auto for 300 vehicles could be, quote, as few as just 1. Anna, optimistically, yes, there's nowhere to go but up. But realistically, there is still a very short road to bottoming out.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. They're definitely grasping at straws here. I think like putting lipstick on the pig, as you would say, with these pre-orders that they're talking about. None of them are binding. They're getting the revenue they pulled in that quarter was something like $700,000.
Yeah.
I mean, is just terrible.
Yeah.
And you know, as usual, there's more to this story as with Faraday Future we often see. But I was reading up a little bit further on some of the things that have been going on at this company because every day you have to look and see what the update is.
Yeah.
Are they still there? So I was reading up about some executive changes that have taken place in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, a little bit of turnover.
Well, kind of. So the board appointed the original founder as the company's co-CEO a couple weeks back. His name's Jia Yuting. 3 years after he was put in a, quote, limited role after an internal investigation into allegations of fraud, a probe that led to an investigation by the SEC that remains ongoing.
Huh. Put him back in, huh?
He's back.
Okay.
So Jia's appointment comes just 1 month after Faraday Future named Jia's nephew, Jerry Wang, as president. I don't know if any of this like improves my viewpoint of the company. It almost looks desperate at best, but maybe corrupt at worst. I don't know what's happening there.
How would it improve your view?
Right, exactly. I mean, is it that they're like, well, this is the guy. We got to get him back in here.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hey, was it corruption? We don't know, but it worked.
I don't know.
It sounds like Arrested Development
did
on
it
another
work?
scale or something.
I know. And then so get this too. The other side of the co-CEO is a man named Matthias 8. And he has been with Faraday Future for a long time. And this is according to a report I read, once placed on probation after he offered to pay a Faraday Future board member up to $700,000 to resign in the middle of a months-long power struggle over the company.
It's just a buyout. It's just a buyout.
This is a publicly traded company.
It's just a buyout.
So I don't know. It's not really eliciting a lot of faith and trust in the company for me. It's not giving me the vibe that like they have a strong foundation, but they are just experiencing some growing pains right now.
Yeah.
It just feels so dysfunctional. And, you know, we've talked about this before, but like EV companies have gone down for so much less. I would not invest another dollar into it if I were a venture capitalist, but they seem to be getting in dribs and drabs money. I don't know why.
Like dribs and drabs, like those are big dribs and drabs.
Big dribs and drabs, but not in auto, you know?
No, well, true. I mean, there's just a shocking amount of optimism still around this company. And I just feel like we have seen, heard, and discussed this story before at great length on the Today in Manufacturing podcast, Jeff. Like, I mean, just like talk about where there's smoke, there's fire. I didn't even know the executive carousel that was going on.
Isn't that crazy?
That is, I mean, it's definitely it's good for like a rip from the headlines sort of television series. But maybe you're optimistic that a couple of tweaks under the hood will set it straight for Faraday.
They are done. Like, how are they not done?
I don't know.
I mean,
the chairs on the Titanic?
Do you know how long this company's been around for 18 years?
Yeah.
Have they sold 100 cars?
I don't. Well, I mean, yeah. Well,
I
they've
don't
got
think so.
pre-orders.
I don't think
I
so.
don't think they've produced
Like-
that many. Like this is crazy. Whoever is getting this private equity money deserves to be the salesperson of the millennium. I mean, how do they continue to get funding here? This just needs to go away. And from a market perspective, this is bad for really the electric vehicle market, in my opinion. You're sucking resources out. You're putting a bad name on a whole entire category of product. And you're confusing buyers. I mean, Fisker they started out with the high-end luxury vehicles, and then they're going to go the completely opposite direction. Where are they making stuff right now? The engineering is all over the place. We've got corrupt stuff, people running the place.
Alleged corruption
at the C level. I don't understand how this company has lasted 18 years. This is the pure definition of smoke and mirrors.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I do not understand how this works.
According to Wikipedia, do you want to fancy a guess at how many vehicles they've delivered as of January 2025?
132.
16.
16.
That's what it
Oh,
said.
my God.
I mean, according to Wikipedia, so asterisk, grain of salt, but
because they started out with it was like $200,000 vehicles, right? What was the high end luxury EVs that they were pitching? I mean, I thought they at least got a couple of those out the door.
yeah, well, a couple. Like, you know, what is wild to me is that some outlets are still calling Faraday the new Tesla. And I'm just like, how can you even say that?
Well, and like, what are tariffs going to do to their mule plan? Like, I just don't. Nothing works. None of it works.
I mean, do you think, Anna, that like as we see Honda scale back on EVs, you know, what are Faraday's prospects, right? Is the idea that maybe like Tesla's brand right now is so toxic that if they maybe just keep stringing it along, they can pick up something there?
No, I don't get it at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, why would you buy a vehicle from a company that is this like bad at
everything?
Them? Like, yeah, it just.
Well, maybe because it's apparently quite rare. You're going to have yourself a collector's item.
I guess.
I mean, if you buy the next several.
I mean, you can't get it fixed or serviced anywhere, but
correct.
You can own it.
It's just you throw a tarp over it, and then it's a barn find in a few.
If they're
decades,
they're not going to answer their phone because their phone got cut off.
All right. Well, our most popular story this week that we have kind of teased throughout the episode: Tesla starts accepting Cybertruck trade-ins with staggering depreciation. According to a new report from Electric, Tesla has finally started accepting trade-ins for its Cybertruck. As the cyberpunk electric trucks were rolled out to reservation holders, some people warned of potential red flags because Tesla refused to take them back. According to Cox Automotive, Tesla sold nearly 39,000 Cybertrucks last year, its first full year of sales. Elon Musk's early projections said around 250,000 units, so just missed it. Now, for something completely expected, the depreciation is significant. The 2024 Cybertruck AWD Foundation Series sold for $100,000. As reported by Electric, Tesla is offering just $65,400 in trade-in value for this specific vehicle, a depreciation of nearly 35% in a year. Pickup trucks typically depreciate around 20% in the first year. Coming off a tough quarter that saw Tesla's first quarter profit plunge more than 70% and reports that the EV maker could have nearly $200 million in Cybertruck inventory that it's still unable to move, it kind of looks like the company's futuristic electric truck might soon become a thing of the past. Anna, is it time for Tesla to flip on their Cybertruck flop?
Flip on their flop?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I mean, just like call it a day.
Oh.
They got to just, like,
oh, well, that's not happening.
Flip on their optimism
Yeah.
and just like, be like, you know what? We're probably not. I mean, do you think, what is it, $200 million in Cybertruck inventory still existing? Do you think they even moved that?
Yeah, no, I mean, they are slowing down. They've sent workers home. There's been reports of that. Like, I mean, they are throttling a little bit here while they wait this out. But, so a couple things. It is hard to compare the depreciation rate of an average pickup truck to this because it's anything but, right? And you also have to take into account the fact that electric vehicles tend to depreciate more quickly than gas vehicles. That's not new information. 35% in a year is insane.
Yeah, it's still pretty high.
But the reason is that technology is just evolving so much that innovations come really fast. Ask anybody who bought an electric vehicle in a model year where the next year that same vehicle has 50 extra miles of range or a better battery or whatever. It's just that's how this industry has been moving. You see a lot of lease activity in this industry because of that depreciation question mark.
Yeah.
Some vehicles are able to weather it a little bit better than others. But with all that said, I think the Cybertruck, being as unique as it is, that first edition, I think, should have been able to counter some of that. Instead, what happened is the company's CEO became such a polarizing figure at precisely the time when this vehicle hit the market and became almost a visible representation of that individual's controversy.
I
almost
think that's fair.
A symbol of that, unfortunately. So I think whereas it could have salvaged a bit of that built-in depreciation, it in fact did the opposite. And unfortunately, I just think that this vehicle as well was kind of a dud before Elon's drama, let's say. It took a really long time to get to market. The conversion rate on the pre-orders was really low. It was very niche. It's not for everybody. Reports of quality issues from the jump, recalls, all that stuff. And then you get past that initial thrust of the first year and the novelty factor is kind of gone. And now you have this entirely new symbol that, generates some sort of response in so many people. And it just compounded those existing problems immensely. And I think they would have had a sales problem without that.
Yeah.
But it came more quickly because of the Musk curse or however you want to call that. And that's now plaguing the entire Tesla brand, unfortunately. And the Cybertruck is a victim of that, I think also because of its novelty, because it was not for everyone, because it was a niche product. It cannot weather this problem because it didn't have enough buyers to begin with.
Jeff, I mean, we talk about the Musk aura. I mean, and he recently came out during an interview and said, "Hey, I'm sticking around for at least another 5 years." Can we just take all that drama, brush it under the Cybertruck, rug, bury it in the desert and start new, try to right the ship?
I think with time, Elon Musk is always going to be polarizing, but with time, people will be able to differentiate between him and his companies.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think with time, they can say, I don't like Elon, but I do like Tesla.
Yeah.
That'll happen. Now, when it comes to the Cybertruck, what's going to be difficult, for my opinion, for Elon Musk is to separate this product from his ego. Because I think he was very closely associated with this and assimilated with it himself, saying, this is me revolutionizing the truck.
Yeah.
We're going to do something completely different. You know what? Swing and a miss.
Yeah.
That's okay. That happens all the time in automotive. There's lists on the internet talking about vehicles that did not work out. Yeah. So instead of trying to remake the truck, use that technology that you have, all that different things that have worked for your other vehicles, plug it into a more traditional looking truck SUV type of offering. Yeah. When you go back to the very first vehicle they put out, the Roadster, where did they borrow that from? It was a Lotus.
Yeah.
They didn't come up with their own design. And you know what? It worked and people were excited about it. Don't, dwell on what didn't work. Focus on the things that do and move forward. That's all that needs to happen. Now, I think that's going to be hard for him.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But I think that's how both him and Tesla and whatever this product line becomes, Cybertruck 2.0, they call it something else, they would be smart to. Yeah. That's where they move forward because everybody's had to.
No, I think there are a couple, at first it seemed like the Cybertruck was kind of a joke, like a troll job. And then he just really doubled down on wanting to make it a thing. And I think, there is a real possibility hey, go back to a more traditional style truck. And maybe in 10 years, this could be how the Hummer comes back, right? You could have something come back as a Cybertruck.
To huge success.
Well, no, us using the Cybertruck branding with maybe a little bit more of a functional vehicle, because I do think that they're like people up until a certain point wanted it to work. They wanted it to kind of change what EV trucks were. And then things just got weird, man. People kind of backed away.
This is the DeLorean of our age.
It is.
This is the 20 years from now, people will find and be like, oh, a Cybertruck. It's so crazy looking.
Yeah. Does it have the panels or do they fall off? No, I think in some of those, like I saw people calling it a DePlorian. And there is a long list of Cybertruck nicknames out there. And I encourage you to check those out because, some of them are hilarious. Some are hilarious and we just can't be shared here. What do you guys think Tesla pivots back to a low-cost electric truck? Because Jeff, to your point, the Roadster's success was the Lotus. So, we just saw the incredible fanfare with like a Slate Auto. What if they either pivoted to their own version, which, it doesn't seem so, quote, silly and pointless anymore now, especially compared to the Cybertruck. I mean, maybe even buy Slate Auto?
That I would be shocked. Like, I can't see that happening, I guess. Just, again, from a cultural perspective, that doesn't make sense. And could they put out a lower cost truck? 100%. I don't think they should. I think they still have a premium brand. I think they can charge a premium price for it. I think you stick at that $65,000, $70,000 mark and offer, again, your version of an electric truck, because you can say, we're going to do it better than the Lightning. We're going to do it better than the Silverado because this is what we do. We're an electric vehicle company. Yeah. And if you focus on that and try to keep out all of the other hoopla and noise and just focus on making a great electric truck, they could do it.
Yeah. Because, there was an article on The Verge that suggested, maybe they go back to a low-cost Slate type truck. But when I read it, I was just like, or they could just buy it, design's not necessarily their best thing, but, the process is.
You think Jeff Bezos, when he put his money into it, put some sort of clause in there, like they can't sell it to Tesla? Or
yeah, that actually checks out. I don't know. Just like you can sell this to anyone but this company.
Yeah.
Well, and how many of those pre-orders go away? I mean, you can't do that right now.
I
think the next 6 to 12 months will be key in determining whether Americans will have put that image of Musk with the chainsaw out of their heads. I mean, I think many people saw that as very flippantly throwing people's lives into disarray, and that will take a while to get over. If people do, I don't think everyone will.
I think that we are still in the stages of impacting more lives, and we'll still be there before we get to healing, and it's going to be a while, in my opinion, based on some of the new things in the new budget. All right. Before we jump into, in case you missed it, the stories maybe not as popular on the website, but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward, we have a word from our sponsor, SugarCRM. Tetley Harris is the largest private label tea packing company in North America. The company makes, again, 28 million tea bags every day in California, Georgia, and New Jersey. For many years, the Tetley Harris sales team relied solely on an outdated system, spreadsheets. This new case study tells you how Tetley improved sales by switching to an updated sales tool, one that has helped the team go from 100 active leads to more than 1,200. So download the new case study, How Tetley Harris Increased Sales Pipeline 1,100%, right now. I think every time I do this read, I'm just going to go darker and darker on spreadsheets, just like spreadsheets. Spreadsheets.
I can't believe that 28 million tea bags a day.
That is so
it's like an insane
tea.
number. Yeah, so much tea.
I double checked the number a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because it's I understand. It's tiny. It's tiny, but that's still a lot.
So many.
Well, in case you missed it, stories not as popular on the website, but could still make a big impact on the industry going forward. Anna, what do you have for us this week?
I selected a story about Philips, the consumer products company that has announced a way to help users 3D print their own trimmer accessories. So their new strategy is hoping to enable customers to produce spare parts for their beard trimmers, basically, using a 3D printer at home. So The issue is that there's this variety of accessories that come with your trimmer. I don't have a beard, so I've never used one. But like cutting guides, heads, combs. My husband has a beard, and he's always like, "Where's my thing?"
Yeah.
And they're like this big, And
does he sound just like that too? That's
Where's
crazy.
my thing?
Where's my thing?
He's
no, there's like you get.
He's very elderly.
Yeah,
Gets his elbows up there.
it's true. Anna's 98-year-old partner. No, I mean all those attachments come with like a tiny little pencil case size satchel.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And if one of them gets lost, then, you have to look up and see if you can find the correct replacement that goes with the product that you have. And even then you have to order it and it's going to take a couple days. What if you have a beard trimming emergency and you cannot wait those 2 days?
Mm-hmm. There's no, I mean, you throw it away. It's e-waste. I mean, I can only speak from experience where that beard related emergency happens usually because of a professional setting. You're just like, I have a meeting with a client and we got to tame her down a touch.
Right.
And that attachment's just not there.
Right. So enter Philips Fixables, which is a collaboration between Philips and a Czech-based company called Prusa Research. So the idea is to help make fixing part of everyday life. So I like the idea. It's really like, hey, people always complain about products of today are throwaway products, This is idea to like kind of apply some clever fixes to make the able to continue to use this, right? Yeah. So they have one replacement part available online. It's a design, and they give you all the specs on what type of material you should use if you have a home 3D printer, and how to follow this design to print out your own blade trimmer, or it's an adjustable comb.
It's a guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I thought it was interesting. And, I read a report about it in The Verge. They pointed out, which I thought was a good point, that it's an exciting first step, but in order to make a difference in terms of sustainability and user friendliness, they really have to add some products to that catalog. They can't just have the one. So it'll be interesting to see if they do scale this idea over time. But interesting trend. My thought was there has to be a market for a company to do this. Obviously, they're going to sell fewer odds and ends ultimately. But if you as the buyer are intrigued by this option to fix your own or replace your own stuff and accessories, then maybe you would buy that brand over others. So
well, I don't think it has to be just Philips necessarily. I think it has to be this like overall cultural change to like in like one designated warehouse where these CAD files are that you can pull for like products that break or are disposable, like pieces of toys, things that are commonly broken or lost, and you can pull them all from this database, right?
Well, and with AI, I think we will be able to do that. We're not going to need a company's like consent really to be able to spec out what the replacement is.
Yeah.
Those files and those designs will be readily available. I would think that this is where we'll go in the future. Yeah. But I feel like Philips is kind of getting ahead of that, which is cool.
Well, I think this is just the realization, the very slow going realization of the potential of 3D printing technology when it first came out.
For sure.
It is wild. Like just yesterday, my son came home with a completely 3D printed toy that one of his friends had printed for him. Like instead of just like drawing pictures for each other or passing notes or whatever, lame things I did as a kid, like their friends are 3D printing toys for each other. I'm like, man, I went from like ahead of the game to so far behind and in like cool factor in terms of parents. Like, so I'm like, I need to get a 3D printer like now. But I don't know. I think it's just finally we're getting more 3D printers in more homes. More people are more comfortable with the technology. And I know that this is like the trinket, gimmicky part of the industry that like the industrial side, additive manufacturing, doesn't want to talk about. But I think that this is a really important part of it in terms of advancing the technology. I mean, it's true, Jeff, though, but like when you're talking to big additive manufacturing, they don't want to talk about those silly little consumer products, even though it makes people more comfortable with the tech, and they're going to become the next shop owners.
Well, and they're not competitive, so there really isn't any need to. I mean, they're not. If you're looking at the stuff that you and I are going to 3D print, that's not what Stratasys is going to go after.
Yeah, but I'm saying that like they both need to exist, right? You need 100%. To have that consumer product, so that way, Des or his friend grows up and he's like, wait a second, I can have a 3D printer that prints a car? And it's just like, yes, you can,
Yeah, I mean, a toy car.
Oh, no, but I mean, we're talking about like, like gigacasting, or I mean, like I mean, when you see how big the parts are, I mean, you're printing full-size engine parts.
I'm going a different direction. What I would say is I think there's definitely a market for like a different type of hardware store, a different type of job shop, whatever you want to say, because we've already seen tools where you can scan and reverse engineer anything to create that CAD design you need to print out a replacement part.
Yeah.
How many times do you break some sort of piece of plastic on a game or some other kid's toy as opposed to throwing it away, replacing it? I could definitely see a service model where it's come on down to the store. We'll take a look at what it is. We'll reverse engineer it. We'll print it and get you back and going.
Yeah. I mean, we have a Monopoly set with just one little duck figure that we can go around the board with. I mean, there's a need for it. But I don't think it's just in reverse engineering. I think that the hardware store is like a 3D printer farm that has this entire database of products. And you say like, hey, I need this for my car. Hey, I need this piece or whatever.
No, just totally disagree. No.
Just flat, no. Just not going to happen.
Not going to happen, David.
Jeff could picture a futuristic landscape with self-reporting companies talking about unlocking funds to help them fix themselves. But this otherwise, okay. Well, my, in case you missed it, was Pennsylvania metal part maker is paying $65,000 after a miner suffers a workplace injury. So in May of last year, a 16-year-old worker suffered a thumb tip amputation while operating a metal forming machine at Fostermation, Inc. This is a company that makes precision wire component products in Meadville, Pennsylvania. According to the Labor Department, multiple investigations found that the manufacturer violated federal law and exposed employees to 6 serious workplace safety violations. OSHA conducted a complaint investigation and another under its National Emphasis Program on Amputations in Manufacturing Industries. The safety agency found amputation and machine guarding hazards and deficiencies in its lockout-tagout procedures. The company has paid the Labor Department $50,000 in change in civil penalties for violating child labor laws and another nearly $15,000 as part of an OSHA settlement to resolve the 6 serious violations uncovered by inspectors. So I chose this story because of a number of factors. One, I think this is very important to continue talking about safety in the workplace, especially as we're talking about removing or lessening regulations about child labor. You know, we're talking about replacing a strong immigrant workforce, and a lot of people are turning to child labor. And I'm saying that if we're opening up that pool, we got to make sure the safety is there. And we also have to remember that it is a child using potentially heavy equipment that can chop their finger off. I also chose this story because it was kind of like a OSHA lives sort of moment for me, or at least kind of. This was only the second press release on workplace safety violations since the new administration took office. And I thought that was pretty important because we didn't think these would come out anymore. Like it seemed like they might have been dead in the water in terms of like more of a deregulation, pro-business approach. So I was curious and I reached out to some of our OSHA contacts, and let's just say we haven't heard back. And just as an open invitation, as I smack this mic, what I asked was that we noticed that the U.S. Department of Labor has restarted posting press releases regarding workplace safety violations. So I wanted to know, was there any particular reason for the lull or a change in SOP in regards to when they are posted? Still haven't heard back. If anyone's got an in or any other information, even if it's off the record, we'd like to know, because I think this information is vital for the industry. And Anna, I know that's kind of thrown a lot at you, but like when you're thinking about child safety, you know, OSHA reporting kind of still lives. What are some of your thoughts about this story?
Yeah, I know. I agree. It's good to hear from OSHA.
Mm-hmm.
I usually see a lull during the administration transition, but it's not typically this long.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, concerning story, of course. I agree that the fines need to be in place for that, and there needs to be like I think that the agency needs to show like a very decisive response right away for issues like this, because I agree with you. If this is the direction we're going, opening things up a little bit for kids that are like teenagers to do a little bit more in manufacturing, wouldn't be my first choice. But if that's what we're doing, we got to make sure that they're safe, man.
Yeah. Jeff, I know that we've kind of gone back and forth many times about, hey, we had jobs that were potentially dangerous when we were younger, but like, I think that it's safe to say that, we want to make sure they're operating in a safe working environment, if that's the case.
For numerous reasons. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the individual being protected, obvious. Okay. Yeah. That's first and foremost. It did blow me away when it was surprised me that you picked this story until I realized it was a 16-year-old that we're talking about here. Yeah. I mean, that is pretty crazy that they would be working on the type of products that this could happen. Yeah. The only other place you think about this is a farm. Yeah. I mean, that's in a factory 16. That just kind of blew me away. And I do think a lot of what we're seeing from the new administration is agency by agency. It is important for OSHA to be putting out more of these types of releases. CISA is one that was also kind of under scrutiny. We weren't sure if we were going to get the same level of communication. And if anything, it's been more, which is good because we need to have all this information put out about vulnerabilities, about different threats, so that everybody's aware, sharing information. There's a level of transparency that makes us all better. Yeah. And that needs to continue here as well. And hopefully it does.
Couldn't agree more. Jeff, what's your in case you missed it this week?
So I picked a story that I was actually surprised didn't get a little more attention, but I think because it was just sort of highly technical, I did have to read this a couple times after looking at the headline. Anna, you enjoy saying this agency's name. Do you want to say who this is from?
DARPA?
DARPA?
DARPA? No one has ever said it like that. It's like the smartest people on earth and...
Yeah. So story is the DARPA program sets distance record for power beaming. So basically, in a series of recent tests down in New Mexico, DARPA achieved several new records for transmitting power over distance. The team recorded more than 800 watts of power delivered during a 30-second transmission from a laser 5.3 miles away. Just to offer a little context, the previous record was 230 watts as opposed to 800, 1.7 kilometers, so less than a mile, for 25 seconds. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is huge. Now, the big part of this as well is the tests referred to as PRAD, the Power Receiver Array Demo. Not only was it important towards the big things that they're doing here, but to achieve the power and distance record, it used a new receiver technology with a compact aperture for the laser beam to shine into. So again, it's a laser, and the big thing is efficiency of that light that's going back and forth. So little light escaped once it entered the receiver. Inside the receiver, the laser strikes a parabolic mirror that reflects the beam into dozens of photovoltaic cells or solar cells that converts the energy back to usable power.
Mm-hmm. It's like on-demand power?
Yeah. We're shooting beams of power over 5 miles to be used. It's not just shooting it there. It's not just a laser melting something. It's saying, hey, you need something over there? Yeah, there you go.
It's charging your phone from 5 miles away.
That is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think of all of the different potential applications of this, when you look at disaster recovery, when you think about elevating some of our third world elements of this world to just have power, running water, clean hospitals. I mean, all of these things, it's remarkable. And again, it's DARPA. We're having a little fun with the name, but the stuff that they are turning out and and this is the first step. I mean, they're just getting going on this. These things fly under the radar, but wow, this is incredible.
It is. We try to promote anything that comes out of DARPA just because, I mean, it is just, primed for your things that lead to all things. And it's always cool. Like, they're talking about very specific applications where this is powering drones or UAVs. I mean, we're talking about like keeping them in the air indefinitely. And that is wild.
But this goes beyond that, right?
Oh,
this is everyday use. I mean, it took, like I said, I had to read this a while. And I can understand why it didn't get as much attention at first, but this is life-changing stuff here. This is incredible.
Well, it's like a lot of DARPA's technology, right? It's to be militarized, and then it will have broader consumer applicability. Anna, what'd you think of the story?
Yeah, absolutely fascinating to consider. And I think your point around like using in areas that don't have infrastructure and maybe won't have infrastructure for emergency situations, for defense, as you said, like that's incredible.
No, it's, obviously you can read about all the new things coming out of DARPA on our websites. But I mean, that's a good bookmark as well. Just DARPA.mil.
Well, just think about all the debate about power lines.
Yeah.
This potentially eliminates that.
I mean, I don't know if the answer to power lines is like laser beams crisscrossing the world, but maybe one day. I don't know. Yeah. All right. Well, before we get out of here, let's do our final thoughts. Anna, what's your final thought this week?
So my 2 daughters got their ears pierced over the weekend on Saturday.
Man, that's awesome.
And it was just like a weird rite of passage. They're 10 and 7. So, I was waiting for them to be old enough to decide and then commit to that decision for a while before we went through with it. But there's ear piercing has changed a lot since I went to Claire's at the mall when I was 8. And it's a lot nicer experience. It was like comically expensive, but
really?
Oh yeah.
Like what?
Because all of the earrings are like super high-end materials. So you don't get like bleeding crusty ear, whatever that every kid that grew up in the 80s had.
Yeah, you don't want that.
So I'm optimistic that they're going to get out of this maybe without having any like grotesque infections. So I think that's what you pay for.
Yeah. I feel like, and everyone was cool with it. It went like,
it was fun. Yeah. Like, so they have like nurses, like registered nurses work there. And so it's just like they're very good with the kids. And everything is super, sterilized and hygienic, and they have their own technology for how they do it and in and out. Yeah, it was great. So
that's really cool. I've never been a part of any sort of ear piercing, so I'm just very interested. I guess the closest I ever got was like my mother did it with like a hot needle and a cork, and I'm just like, she's like, "Do you want me to do yours?" I'm like, "That's a pass. Yeah, it is a pass for me." But,
they don't do that now. So
okay,
yeah. Oof. Such a kind of nightmare story about my youngest daughter getting her ears pierced. I don't know if we have time to get into that, but it was a bad one.
What's the abridged version?
It got infected, and we had to go to the ER. And they actually, this is bad, but they actually they ended up having to pull the earring out through the front, but with the back attached.
Oh, no.
Because they couldn't get it off. They couldn't get the back of the earring off to remove it, so it came through the whole way through her lobe.
You don't they couldn't like clip it off?
Could not get to it because it was
so, like,
bad.
It
was a horrible. Yeah, I was in the ER with her there trying to, And Doc's like, this is just going to be a sec. And it was.
Yeah.
But it was one of those screams where like they don't make any noise.
Yeah.
Just like the mouth is open.
Yeah.
But it was over quick and she recovered like a champ. She went about quite a while with no ears pierced after that. Yeah. But now she's back into it. And her and my middle daughter gross me out with the things that they get pierced because it just freaks me out. Because like the middle daughter has like with her nose pierced and it's just, can't handle it.
Hearing about the like crunch from the septum piercing.
Oh, guys.
No. Anyway, well, but hey, it's good that the materials have come a long way to help prevent such infections.
Yes, it was very.
You can look it up in the archives of surgical products. I detailed it there.
No thanks.
That's got to make a great column. So my final thought this week was that I recently read the book R.U.R. It's a graphic novel that's based on the play by Katerina Kapova. And that, if it's striking any sort of recollection, Katerina was the Czech writer that created the term robot. And so I would encourage you to read this graphic novel or the original play, which was written in, I believe, 1928, and just how scary accurate and close it is. And and then I want you to reach out at david@ien.com so we can talk about it, because I've recommended it to producer Eric, and I was just like, you need to read this, and then I need you to come back so we can talk about it. Jeff, you need to read this.
All right, man.
So
I've heard about it.
Yeah, and it is. I can't believe. Well, I mean, if you read it, you're like, I can't believe this movie hasn't been made. But this movie has been made 1,000 different times. But it is an incredible story, an incredible translation by Julia Novakova. Either way. Sorry, Ned, Julie, but highly recommend this book. Especially if you're into sci-fi at all. It's very beautifully done, and it's a quick read. And Also, there's a really interesting forward about how they came up. So basically, Katerina had, Katerina had come up with this word that was going to be the word for robot before, and this entire story. And then her brother like came up with robot, and it's just like, or robota. And it's like, yeah, that's better. That's better. I mean, and that's why we have robots. And I'm interested in, there are some companies out in the industry with some names that are kind of close to seeming like they have to absolutely be inspired by this book. And I'm interested to learn more about that too. So highly recommend this book. Check it out if you get a chance. Jeff?
First of all, just say thanks to all the people who sympathized with me for my softball injuries last week. People saying they can appreciate where I'm coming from. Also, people who could associate with the trauma I faced pulling my wife's vehicle into the garage and all the sensors and lights and everything else. Got some very good stories there from similar experiences with people. So we'll send out some T-shirts and some koozies in response to that. I was having an interesting conversation with my daughters last night, and they were talking about TV shows that they're watching. Because my youngest daughter's watching Jersey Shore reruns.
Oh, yes. No.
Just as,
Those should be like archived and not allowed out in public.
So then like my other daughter was talking about maybe I should start watching Game of Thrones. She's old enough now. That's okay. So they were talking about other shows like when I was in college that I was watching that would maybe recommend for them to look at from a nostalgia stake. They're home for summer and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was struggling coming up with some from college particular, but the one that did stand out, and I know Nolan will also appreciate this, but I do remember sitting around the living room with 3 other dudes watching Dawson's Creek.
Yeah. Oh, I don't feel bad about mine then. You should tell them to watch Felicity if they haven't watched Felicity yet.
Felicity.
Oh, yeah. Hardcore dorm vibes on that one. And
I did not watch.
I'll lean into it. Yep, I know. Judge me. That's fine. But yeah, that's a really good one.
For me, it was Sex and the City and Family Guy. I watched a lot of that in college.
Family Guy's so good.
They're trying to stay away from South Park.
Oh,
but then getting dragged into that one a little bit. So if you got any other ideas, ways for my daughters to not get outside during summer, let me know.
Producer Eric says The OC.
The OC?
Yeah.
That one I missed too. I didn't see that one.
Before we get out of here, I got to mention that I got the author wrong. So Katerina that I mentioned, that is the author of the graphic novel. The story was written by Carol Kapik. Sorry, Carol. Rest in peace. All right. Before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first, and subscribe to us at IEN Magazine on YouTube so you can join us when we go live every Thursday. For Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manty. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.